Tonight, in this edition of the primetime newscast on Equinox Television, a majority of petitions filed at the level of the Constitutional Council in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, against some list of senatorial candidates rejected. There are 4 in number. Ruling in the case of the Social Democratic Front Party against the SDF or CPDM senatorial list in the West region of Cameroon has been postponed to the 19th of March 2018. In this edition of the news, we shall be getting the reactions of supporters of the principal opposition political party in Cameroon. Also ahead, we would be talking about President Paul Biya that has reminded his ministers that the well-being of the entire population in Cameroon is going to be or should be the priority of ministers in the country. It was during the Ministerial Council meeting that took place at the Unity Palace today. Those are headlines. We shall be right back. Good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinox Television. The Constitutional Council in Cameroon has ruled against the various petitions, so has ruled on the various petitions by candidates or parties against senatorial lists in some regions of Cameroon. The court rejected at least 4 petitions, or 4 to be more precise, stating that the complainants were neither candidates nor parties, but were contesting the list on personal accounts, which is against Article 129 of the Electoral Code in Cameroon. An example of such petitions are those filed by Saki Lamin calling for the withdrawal of the CPDM senatorial list in the far north region of Cameroon. It was a similar situation with the file of Mbamin Zakari in the east region of Cameroon, as well as a host of other lists. It should be noted that the file of the NUDP party, that is the National Union for Democracy Party, was simply removed. The reason as to why it was removed up to now remains unknown. And shortly after the petitions were deliberated on in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, that was this afternoon at the end of the session, some reporters in Yaoundé, precisely those of the state media, caught up with Honorable Joseph Mbandam. He is a legal advisor of the Social Democratic Front. He's going to be giving his reaction in the following excerpt.
NUDP is an ally of the CPDM. Otherwise, the issues that led to the filing of the petition concerning Adamawa are very pertinent, and they were with the court before which it had to be adjudicated. The Constitutional Council that I know today, the results would have been against the CPDM. But something happened and they withdrew it. Now, secondly, concerning the Chief Chachuan's petition, that is the SDF members' petition, you have seen that we were able to demonstrate that the existence of that particular candidate was doubtful, and a proper court has decided to see that person before it. So Monday 19th will be a different ball game when we'll have him before us. I hope that we'll have the opportunity to put questions to the supposed candidate if at all he appears. Then the other, again, I applaud the proceedings, and I said truly most of the petitions that have been thrown out were justly thrown out, because Section 129 of the Electoral Code prescribes exactly who has local standing before the Constitutional Council. What do I mean? The law says that you must be a candidate or a political party before you can file a petition to the Constitutional Council. But persons who were neither candidates nor political parties filed petitions. It was but natural that they did not have the local standing before the Constitutional Council, and those petitions were thrown out. That's exactly what happened with 4 of the 6 petitions.
And it is only on the 19th of March 2018 that the Social Democratic Front Party would know whether they would be battling against the ruling CPDM political party in the west region of Cameroon amongst the other parties that will be taking part in the senatorial elections in that part of Cameroon. The Constitutional Council is still to decide on their case, as Babila Jonathan tells us in this report.
The Constitutional Council, after meeting for the first time to deliberate on petitions filed by individuals and political parties against some lists of senatorial candidates, resolved to reject 4 petitions after examination and postponed the final verdict on the case of the Social Democratic Front (SDF) against the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement (CPDM) to March 19, 2018. The petition of the National Union for Democracy and Progress against the CPDM in the Adamawa region was removed over reasons that are yet to be made public. On the case of the Social Democratic Front in the west region of Cameroon against the CPDM list of senators, outgoing Senator Paul Chachuang called for the rejection of the list following the alleged inclusion of a fictitious name, Tigné Déthieu Joseph, published by Elections Cameroon, and Tigné Déthieu Jean, published by the media, which to the Social Democratic Front is a fictitious candidate. The first of the 4 petitions rejected was that of Senator Saki Lamin, calling for the cancellation of the CPDM senatorial list in the Far North region. And concerning the case of Bamin Zakari against a candidate in the East region and that of Engano Valentine on the cancellation of the entire process, the petitioners have, according to the Constitutional Council, violated Article 129 of the Electoral Code. The senatorial election takes place on March 25, 2018, and it is after the March 19 ruling of the Constitutional Council that the fate of the CPDM and the SDF in the West region will be known.
And the major issue on the agenda following the Constitutional Council deliberation that took place in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, today is the postponement of the file or petition filed by the Social Democratic Front, who have been joined by support of the said political party. Celestin Jamen, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Good evening, Mimifo, and good evening to all your telespectators. Thank you.
Good evening once again. We saw the petition that has been filed by Paul Chachuang of the Social Democratic Front in the West region of Cameroon, calling for the cancellation or withdrawal of the list of the CPDM political party in the West region of Cameroon on grounds that there is a fictitious name on the list of the CPDM candidates going in for election, precisely a single candidate in the West region. What is your reaction after the Constitutional Council decided to postpone the ruling as far as the case of the SDF is concerned?
I think there is a basically and serious problem. I want to ask myself if the Constitutional Council is it jurisdictional or the political organ? Because I don't understand why. Because the law is down. We need just to follow the law and to apply the law. When the Constitutional Council decide to postpone the decision, is for which intention? Is to require the advice or to receive the instruction of the head of state? I don't know. Because there is a law. What the XDF asks for is to respect the respectful of the law, only of the law. When you saw concerning the issue for the farmer, Mr. Saki Lamin, this is a problem of investiture concerning the internal problem of one party, CPDM. It don't concern the law. So his demand was rejected by the Constitutional Council. But concerning the West province, West region, the SDF just acts on the base of the law, of the electoral code, that the Constitutional Council must apply only the law and all the law we ask for.
But the Constitutional Council is yet to decide. Postponing the case or the verdict for the 19th of March could be a positive indication for the Social Democratic Front.
Yes, we want to know the motivation of this postponing of the decision. Because they have to tell us what exactly make that he could not give the sentence or the decision right now.
But possibly the Constitutional Council needs more time to be able to go through the files and the various arguments that were given. It should be noted that several legal minds of the Social Democratic Front were there to present the case of the party.
Yes, I want to understand that you have to be a little indulgent, but we have to stand firm, because the process is based on the respect of the law only. If now the president of the Constitutional Council decides to postpone this decision, that means that maybe he is going to ask for another body. But when we read at the Electoral Code, this organ is independent. So they have to take the decision themselves.
So you have the impression that the decision
yes,
is influenced?
It is not. I think it's not only the impression. When you look at the proceeding, the nomination, the appointment of those members, they almost all belong to the CPDM. You know that. So you have to put down a systemic and structural problem of this organ. But we know that every time you have to judge the mason on the base of the wall. So we are waiting for the decision. But beginning from now, I can say that this way to postpone a decision without any motivation is not acceptable.
Now, we would like to get your reaction for you to evaluate. It's only the case of the Social Democratic Front that has been postponed. We have 4 files or petitions that were rejected by the Constitutional Council. So far, what is your evaluation? Are you positive or negative?
I think that at the end, what is important to say is that if the law will be respected, I think that the case will be very appreciated. But if the postponing is basing on the fact to refer to the executive, I mean the President of the Republic, so now we can say loudly that the Constitutional Council is not independent. Let me want to say one thing too, if you allow me a second. You know, we are in the electoral year. So Mr. Paul Biya, the President of the Republic, signed a decree on the February 7th. So he is summoning the Electoral College for the 25. And you know that the financial law of this year put on as budgeted the material organization about around 50 billions. So it's not a joke, it's a serious problem. So all the 5 which are not follow the law must be cancelled without any sentiment or everything like that. So I could not accept that, because there are most of them lawyers in this organ. So they have a few hours because the time is going on to decide really what's happened in the file, because we know the condition. When you read at the Electoral Code, we know the condition.
But we'll have to wait for the ruling of the Constitutional Council on the 19th. What happens with the SDF? They'll be going on, obviously, with the campaign, since the campaigns were launched a few days ago.
The Electoral College is exclusively constituted by the councillors. So when you take it basically, you can understand that all the councillors are militants of some party. And
meaning that the stakes are very high for the Social Democratic Front.
Yes, very hard, because we decided in 1919 to go to all election. We don't need no more boycott again. So we decided by our resolution to go through every election in Cameroon. So when you see on the field, of course, obviously, the CPDM has almost 8,000 of councillors, while SDF have only, 800. But the politics is politics.
But
there's no deal, but I think that
the councillors, even those of the ruling CPDM political party, might vote based on their consciences.
Yes, you know that there is most of
like
party,
the president of the UDP in Bamenda would say.
Maybe that is his declaration, his opinion, I respect it. But you know that most of the parties decide to don't take part to this election. So, you know, for instance, you have MIC, you have CPP, you have PADEC, and so on. So we have firstly to go to those councillors and to present them our program, because we represent, the senators represent the regions. So what can the SCF propose concerning the representation of the region in the Senate?
Now, Celestin Jamin, that is reacting on the Constitutional Council deliberations that took place in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, today. We would stay with you this time around to talk about the meeting of the President of the Republic of Cameroon with his ministers that took place at the Unity Palace more than 3 years, or an estimated 3 years after the previous one took place in October 2015 and not 2014. As we said earlier, the lone item on the agenda states that the President was to deliver a special message to government ministers in Cameroon. He talked about the fight against unemployment and the need for the various ministers to improve the living standard of the entire population in Cameroon. They should take that as a priority. The President of the Republic called for the effective implementation of the International Monetary Fund program and ensure the completion of major infrastructures in Cameroon, like the completion of the second bridge over the Vori River, the Kribi Autonomous Port, that is in the south region of Cameroon. The head of state equally talked about the socio-political crisis in the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon, praised the efforts of security forces and said that the forces of law and order would continue in their efforts to put an end to the activities of what he qualified as criminals in the northwest, the southwest and the far north regions of Cameroon. The head of state talked about the decentralization and local development ministry that has been put in place, hoping that the ministry is going to be proposing solutions to some of the crisis, the political crisis rocking Cameroon now. The head of state equally talked about elections in Cameroon. He started by indicating that the senatorial elections are already here, or the senatorial election is already here, but we are yet to know the electoral calendar in the country. Mr. Celestin Jamin, on the outing of the President of the Republic of Cameroon today, the Ministerial Council meeting that is taking place after the previous one took place in 2014. What is your reaction after the declarations of the head of state?
First of all, I want to say that the Ministerial Council is not the speech. It's not the matter of the speech. We need to know what is the achievement, what is the way forward that given us by the President of the Republic. When you spend your life as a President of the Republic to hold only one Ministerial Council, one time per 3 years, every 3 years, is it that the way to govern a country? There is a lot of problem in the country. Problem of potable waters, problem of infrastructure.
He has talked about it.
Yes, but only one time. You see today, he held this Ministerial Council. But we were waiting again 3 or 4 years ago before holding another Ministerial Council. It's not normal.
And the holding of the Ministerial Council has been at the center of debate since yesterday that it was announced. We know that in some countries, like in France, it is held on a weekly basis. In other African countries, we have for Senegal, Gabon, that they hold them on monthly basis, checked by the President himself.
Correct.
They
exactly.
are evaluating, they evaluate the activities of the government and define the plan of action of government ministers, officials in their respective countries. But here, either it is holding 2 years after the previous one, 4 years after the previous one. What could be the implication on the activities of government ministers and the entire government in Cameroon?
This implies that the activities are very low, are very low, because when the President of the Republic don't have the time to talk with his government, the Prime Minister, to see the basic problem of the country, the recurrent problem of the country. He could not know exactly what's happened every day in the country. And let me repeat once more again that the Ministerial Council is not only the speech. You have to exchange with your ministries. You have to exchange. You have to share the experiences between ministers. So if you do it only one time every 3 years or every 4 years, where is the country is going?
What about the cabinet meeting that takes place?
It's not the same thing.
Every Thursday at the end of every month,
you
chaired
know,
by the Prime Minister.
The key words is that we are in the presidential system, presidentialist system in Cameroon. Of the way of to govern the country is the presidentialist system. So we need the physical presence of the President of the Republic in the Ministerial Council. The Prime Minister, with all due respect, could not give the way forward to the minister, because it's raised the problem of respect of our constitution, which said that the Ministerial Council will be chaired by the President of the Republic. So, when you're talking about the ministerial cabinet, no, it's not the same thing. You cannot compare that. You see, in Gabon, in France, in Senegal, as you say before, the President himself is there to talk with this government, to see the deeply problem of the country. One is absent every time. How can you manage exactly and properly, sincerely the country? It's not possible.
Now, the President talked about the decentralization ministry that has just been created, saying that he's hoping that the ministry is going to propose solutions and foster the policy of decentralization that has been existing for several decades in Cameroon. What do you have to say about that?
There's a differences between the practice and the theory. I mean that what I'm trying to say is that the President of the Republic, Mr. Paul Biya, did not understand that the decentralization is not the administrative problem only, it's also a political problem. So what's the problem in Cameroon is that the SDO and also the administrative authorities, public authorities, take the power face in the mayors, because when we were talking about decentralization, we think that we will give the power, the legitimacy to the mayors, to the councillors. The constitution is very clear. The councillors with the mayors, local government could manage the council, you know. But when you see every time, when you give the files to the councillors, they have a debate on the topics, on the issues, but they send it to the SDO. You have the right to decide if yes or no. You can ensure that this deliberation is exact, is correct or not. That's another way, beginning considering the constitution of our country.
Very well then, Mr. Celestin Jammeh, before we come back to you, we have been bringing to our televiewers updates on the refugee crisis in neighboring Nigeria as far as the socio-political tension rocking the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon is concerned. Apart from lack of food, inadequate medical care, there is the problem of accommodation. Anglophone Cameroonians have been away from their home, their country, for several months now, getting to more than 1 year following the escalation of the socio-political crisis in the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon. Derek Jato is going to be telling us in the following report that the warm reception of the Nigerian population has been instrumental to the people who are now in despair. His report.
It is no secret that the weight of the 20,000 Southern Cameroonian refugees in Nigeria is on the shoulder of the host communities, especially here in Cross River State. Though challenging, but these Nigerians have taken the fleeing Cameroonians as part of them. At Danari, for instance, one of the host villages here in Nigeria, Miss Philomena, a health worker at the Danari Health Center, said the entire village was sympathetic with these Anglophone refugees.
It's not an easy thing for such people who are just places to be in my shoe, to just run from my own community without food, without clothing, just to join on somebody's community. So the encouragement over this community was too much, because as soon as they just came in, They gave them the free access to do whatever they feel like doing, even with their forest, any other thing. So all of them, at least, they have been going through their forest to pluck salad for help, and they even fed them. So I want to say the Almighty God that has been keeping them for all this while should continue keeping them, and nothing will happen with any of them, because I believe with the community they are safe.
Even on the street of Nigeria, the confession is the same.
Yes, we assisted them for some things. We are living with them like brothers. Yeah, and the life is very, very difficult for them because they have money, they have income.
Some Nigerians have even embraced and created job opportunities to some Cameroonian refugees. 97 years old Chief Otu Michael Owan Bidebe, the clan head of the Biafra people, remarked that these Southern Cameroonian refugees are hardworking and very supportive, reason why he has given out his land for them to cultivate their crops.
And we are feeling them, whatever thing we have, we share with them, especially with also feeding and accommodation. We are never tired to accommodate them and give them food.
You also give your land for them to farm.
Yes, we give them land to farm. We give them the forest to tap anything.
The land of Biafra village is fertile, and the village is hosting the highest number of refugees. 58 years old, now on the throne of his forefathers, Chief Otu Michael said these Southern Cameroonian refugees in his clan will have the same privileges, just like the indigenous. You have been for over half a century?
Yes, we 97 years now. And 58 years of reign as a traditional ruler. I started from Eastern region of Nigeria, and Eastern region of Nigeria to Southeastern state of Nigeria. And from Southeastern state to Cross state. From Cross state of old to the new Cross state, when the Aquarian people defected from office.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. Thank you very so much. All right, we are just from talking with Paramount Ruler.
Thanks indeed, Derek Jato, for that package from Nigeria. Now, police of the 8th District Station in Dakar here in the economic capital Douala have opened investigations after a kidnapped child was later found. That was yesterday, Wednesday. The alleged kidnapper fell ill when the investigations were ongoing. She has been admitted at the Lakantini Hospital here in Douala. Simanjikan Gabriel tells us more in this report.
Jumo Francesca, who is just attaining her 4th year, missed being kidnapped Wednesday at the Dakar neighborhood. Pupil of a primary school not very far from the Dakar roundabout was forcefully taken away by a woman as she was found outside after school hours on Wednesday. According to a lady selling at the Dakar market, she came on a commercial motorbike with a nursery school kit. Actually, she came to sell vegetables to me, but I was not interested. She then put down the child she was carrying and used her head scarf to tie on the head of the child. She then took a peace plant and kept in the child's bag. It was a woman who recognized the lady and said she never owns a child. Maybe she only stole her. An alert raised by the market women led to the capture of the alleged child theft. Ngaha Helen, who was taken to the 8th District Police Station in Dakar to be questioned. Another market woman tells us that it wasn't her child. If it was hers, she couldn't have covered her eyes with her head scarf and a peace plant. She stole the child.
matière couvre la face, qu'on ne voit pas la face de l'enfant.
Meanwhile, the parents of the young kids are still surprised because the school in question wasn't very far from the house. According to Albert Billon, father of Francesca,
Dans la salle de classe de l'enfant, ils sont 3.
in the same classroom of the child, there are 3 of them coming from the same home. Generally, as they come from the same house, they move together when school closes. What happened Wednesday is a surprise to everyone. A father confirmed having seen as the child was being taken. Francesca's parents have now dropped a complaint at the 8th District Police Station against the alleged child theft, Ngaha Ellen. The latter, who showed signs of being mentally sick when she was being questioned by police, made the officers to transport her to the Lakentini hospital. Only the medical report from the doctors will determine the next stage of the case.
And Celestine German is still with us. With you, sir, we are going to be getting your quick reaction on the situation of Anglophone refugees in neighboring Nigeria. Many were expecting that for the first time today, at least the head of state would make an official statement on the situation of Anglophone Cameroonians in Nigeria, but nothing was mentioned. What do you have to say about that?
Yes, first of all, I want to say one thing, because when I followed your report, the problem arising is that it's a problem of insecurity, even concerning the rape of the children, our little children, even concerning the Anglophone problem. First, concerning the children, I think that obviously every citizen has to be vigilant, of course, but the state have himself to do his job. That means to ensure the safety and the security of the citizen and the good. So I can simply say that concerning this matter, the state don't take all his responsibility, because when you look at the situation in the Northwest and Southwest, the causes is the absence of dialogue. Because the absence of dialogue, the SDF, for instance, called at many times the President of the Republic to launch a dialogue, the inclusive dialogue. Because the absence of the dialogue involve the radicalization of the extremists. So now you have almost a civil war, of course, impacted only on the 2 Anglophone regions, but it's a civil war. When you see the higher level of insecurity in the Northwest and the Southwest, you can say that we are into the civil war. So the principal responsible is the President of the Republic. Because that if Mr. Biya used to launch a sincerely and deeply dialogue, I think that we will avoid this kind of situation. So I think that we need to multiply the gendarmerie posts everywhere. Firstly, when I saw your report in the dangerous neighborhood, it's very important for the insecurity into the country. Secondly, concerning the Anglophone crisis, we think that every Cameroonian of goodwill will be called to contribute to the research of the solution. Mr. Biya is the head of state, so he has the power to summon a biggest dialogue in the country. But every time he just takes a decree, it's not the problem of decree, it's the political problem. What on the field have been done to solve this problem? Nothing yet, nothing. You know that. I think that we must now know that we must rehabilitate the consortium.
But the head of state is going to tell you that the reinforcement of security is one of the solutions.
Every day, our gendarmes and our policemen are killed. So there's no solution.
And civilians
too, of course. The families are in the death every day. So that I think that what we need is a concrete solution. Mr. Biya just spent his time to create the commission of so and that. That is not the way to go forward. The way is to summon, I repeat it once more again, a biggest dialogue in the country, including even a religious, even a traditional rulers, even a citizen, a civil society and a political party, opposition and party in the power.
Do you think that with the way things are going now, with a good number of Cameroonians in neighboring Nigeria, violence that is escalating on a daily basis, is there any possibility for dialogue? Do you
of course,
so?
If a president have the political will to do that, have the power to do that, and we will be behind him if he do that, concerning this matter in particular, because it's our friend, it's our brother, our sister, it's our children who are obliged to escape to Nigeria. You understand? I understand 50,000 of Cameroonians to Nigeria. Is it possible? Is it acceptable? I say no. So the SCF, since a long time, proposed a solution. And we are ready to go to the table of negotiation to give our ideas to solve this problem.
Mr. Celestin Germain, thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you. To our televiewers, it was equally a pleasure having you with us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinox Television. Wishing you a blessed stay in the company of our programs. Until we meet again, goodbye.
Décidé de changer de job, d'en trouver un ou d'aider un proche à en trouver un, recevez une pléthore d'offres disponibles sur le marché.